Hi there, I'm Vincent and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing reaching out to an ex, 3 rules to follow. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing reaching out to an ex, 3 rules to follow. So if you have gone through a breakup and want to reach out to your ex, it's important that you only do this in certain circumstances. In today's podcast, I discuss 3 rules to follow if you want to reach out to your ex and have an increased chance of it being successful. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is if you're a dumper. So if you were the person who ended the relationship, then it's absolutely vital that you reach out to your ex. So this, point number 1, is where I'm discussing it from the dumper's perspective. But if you're a dumpee, please keep listening because points 2 and 3 are very important for you. But also I believe point number 1 could give you some real context about the perspective of where a dumper is at. So point number one is if you're a dumper. And if you're a dumper, I believe you must reach out to your ex to start to move things forward for reconciliation. During the relationship that you had with your now former partner, you were both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for one another. Now, for whatever reason, you lost that level of attraction and you ended the relationship. And at that time, you decided to go on your own path. But the likelihood is that your ex, the dumpee, didn't want the relationship to end. They was likely unhappy about your decision, and you probably realised that you have left them in emotional distress. Therefore, it is up to you to reach out to your dumpee if and when you want to speak again. So if you want to reconcile, of course, you need to have a conversation first, at least that, if not multiple chats, and meeting up. So this starts with communication starting once again, and this needs to come from you. Now I suggest as a dumper, you reach out to your ex, the dumpee, and you apologise for the breakup itself. You need to be given your reasoning based on why this happened and why you have now decided to reach out to them. You've got to understand, if you reach out to your dumpee, they're going to be very confused and not understand the point of view that you are coming from. Now, for people who aren't listening to today's podcast, they very rarely reach out in a way where things are clear and understood. If you're a dumpee and listening to this, the likelihood is that your ex, the dumper, will reach out to you using an indirect, direct approach by reaching out to you, speaking about something else rather than what they really want to talk about, which of course is the potential for reconciliation. So what I'm trying to tell dumpers right now is if you are listening to this, then you can make things a lot easier for your dumpee and ultimately yourself if you are more direct and honest about your reasoning. It's understandable that you might be tentative about reaching out to your dumpee, and of course, if you just want to reach out and say hi and see if you get a response, then that is understandable. But your ex, the dumpee, is likely to be confused and wondering about why you are reaching out. So I suggest as a dumper, you reach out to your ex, the dumpee, you say hi, you explain your reasonings for why you ended the relationship, and just ask at the end of the message whether or not they would like to chat. You could just leave it as open-ended as, if you would ever like to chat, just contact me. If you ever want to speak about this, just let me know. If you ever want to meet up, then please get in touch. That kind of thing, attached to a message where you explain from your perspective why things happened, and please, please, please remember to apologise. Even if you feel that you had the right and the reason to end the relationship, you've got to see it from a dumpee's perspective, that they are feeling hurt, they're feeling upset, they're feeling confused. So I suggest in this opening message, you do apologise for action in the breakup. So point number 1 about 3 rules to follow if you're going to reach out to an ex is if you're the dumper, because it's so important for a dumper to take responsibility for their actions. And okay, you've changed your mind, or maybe you are considering changing your mind, and that is fine, but you must let your dumpee know. You know, they don't know unless you reach out, so make sure you send that text today. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about reaching out to an ex, 3 rules to follow. And point number 2 is dumpee, necessary contact. So if you are a dumpee, unless very rare circumstances occur, I don't suggest you reach out to your ex for dumper. Now, points number 2 and points number 3 are going to be explaining some of these exceptions to the rule of where I believe you could reach out to your ex for dumper first. But by and large, if you have been dumped, I don't believe you should ever contact your ex again unless they contact you first. And as I said in point number 1, I encourage a dumper to do that. So point number 2 is dumpee, necessary contact. And what this means is when you must contact your dumper for a necessary reason. Now, this could be for a few potential possibilities. Maybe this is regarding possessions. Maybe you have some of your ex's possessions. Maybe they have some of yours. And if these possessions are important, if they are valuable, if they are necessary, for example, a work laptop, then you are going to have to reach out to your ex. I suggest keeping things on point and not trying to deviate from a fact of what you are asking to arrange, which is the exchanging of possessions. Other potential possibilities include if you work with your ex and you need to work together on a specific task or project, you of course need to communicate. You can't be somebody who is ignoring your ex and causing you and or them to get the sack, to get fired just because you won't speak to them, because you're thinking you need to implement the no contact rule. The no contact rule is for people who are not working together, who do not have children together. If you have children together, if you work together, then I suggest you use a variant of my version of a no contact rule, which is called limited contact. And in that regard, if you work together in this instance, you may have to reach out. You certainly will have to communicate. Be positive, be happy, carefree and fun, but keep things on point. You know, don't start speaking about your breakup when you need to speak about work. Keep things on point, but stay positive. Make sure you don't come across as awkward and give a good impression. Similarly, if you have children together, you're going to have to communicate about your child. You're going to have to communicate about childcare and the plans ahead for your children and who is looking after them. So if you are the dumpee in this instance, you are at times going to have to message your ex, no doubt, about your child. But please, again, keep this on point. Don't take this into the relationship conversations. Don't take this into the breakup conversations. Don't quiz your ex about their dating life. This needs to be kept on point about your child. You need to make sure you are the best mother or best father that you can be to this child. And this means having a positive, respectful relationship with their other parent. This is not to be used as a backdoor to try and reattract your ex, because if you do this from that perspective, it's very unlikely to work out for you. Somebody who ends a relationship has lost romantic emotional attraction. This can't be gained by begging, pleading, or reasoning. So don't try and use the fact that you have a child together or that you work together as a reason to try and flirt with your ex. I would always say as a dumpee, don't flirt with your ex unless you feel the flirting is coming from them first. You have to understand that unless they regrow romantic emotional attraction, anything that you say, ask, plead, beg, reason will just sadly fall on deaf ears and potentially cause you even more difficulties. The aim of this, in essence, in point number 2, is keep things on point. Whether it's about possessions, whether it's about work, whether it's about your children, keep things to a topic in hand. Give a good impression of yourself by how you communicate and present yourself, and this could grow attraction subtly, even though you aren't actively flirting or asking your ex to go on a date. You can get across in a positive way how you've gone through improvements. Let them notice. You don't have to tell them. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about reaching out to an ex. 3 rules to follow. And point number 3 is in rare instances. Now, as a dumpee, you really want to be listening to this one, because this could be something where you reach out to your ex where you probably least expected it. In general, I do not suggest dumpees reach out to their ex if it is their birthday, if it is Christmas, if it is New Year, or any other important date on the calendar. However, there is an exception to the rule in my version of the no contact rule, and that is, if you have had positive communication which was started by your dumper within the last 30 days or so, then I believe you do have some right, you might say, to wish them a happy birthday or a Merry Christmas, etc. So let's just try and break that down, because there are a lot of elements here that you need to be making sure that you're ticking off and you're not just assuming that you fit the bill. I don't speak about this often because when I say this, some people try to just create a situation where they fit into this, and unfortunately 95% of you won't. Okay, but it's important, just in case you are in that 5%, that you know what could give you a positive possibility of reconnecting. So let's just go through this at the beginning again. So what we're looking at here is when there is an important date on the calendar, such as your ex's birthday, maybe Christmas if you celebrate it, New Year, or any other important date on the calendar where you live. This is something where ordinarily you probably would be reaching out to your loved ones. Okay, now if you don't hear from your ex, okay, if you don't hear from your dumper, then certainly I don't believe you should be reaching out to them. But if you have heard from your dumper in the last month or so and you've had a positive interaction, then I believe you do have a right to send them that message. So when we think of this, what do I mean by positive interaction? Well, if your expert dumper reaches out to you, you have a good conversation, but possibly it doesn't lead to meeting, possibly it doesn't lead to you actually reconnecting, but you had a positive interaction. You had positivity flowing between you and they instigated it, the dumper started the conversation. If that has happened and it's been within a month or so, I believe you can send them a happy birthday, you can send them a Merry Christmas, etc. The reason for this is you could be already on the way to getting back together, but it hasn't just yet formulated that way. And if your ex dumper is feeling a positive vibe between you and then you don't wish them a happy birthday, that could confuse matters further. However, there are those elements that all need to be in place, especially the time frame. If you have a positive interaction with your expert dumper that they instigate, but it was, say, 6 months ago, then in my opinion, this is not something that you can then use to message them happy birthday. Because I believe that unfortunately is shown that nothing grew from a positive interaction. If it's been within the last 30 days or so, there is still a chance that this could grow, that this could improve, that this could be something which you and your ex can reconcile with. And hence, the happy birthday, the Merry Christmas, the Happy New Year, etc., and all of those types of things could be something just to push things along in the right direction. I suppose what I'm saying in essence is you probably are already on the way of getting back together, and this is something just to keep that positive vibe going. If you don't have any inclination that this is happening right now, if any interactions happened long ago, if your ex reached out to you but it was negative, if your ex doesn't contact you at all, then I don't believe you should wish them happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because they have not shown an intrigue, they have not shown an increase in romantic emotional attraction, and as I've been saying, this is what needs to be shown if and when you can reconnect. So if you have this rare situation at hand where your ex has contacted you, it's positive, it's been recent, but maybe it hasn't quite yet got you back together, I believe if it's recent enough, you can wish them a Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, etc. These are rare instances, and please don't try and cheat this, because you will only be cheating yourself. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, If you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.